Monica Hanna is an archaeologist. She's putting her life on the line to save the world's greatest treasures. Ahmed Abu Zuba and Hima Mohammed rely on showing tourists those treasures to make a living. They're Egyptians from different backgrounds, but they share a common cause. Monica is driving me into the desert. A few miles away, protesters are battling the army. Out here, she wants to show me how the collapse of law and order is affecting the most famous tourist site in the world.
Oh, that's pretty amazing. Look, that is amazing.
The Giza Plateau, home to one of the 7 wonders of the world. The Sphinx and the pyramids are at least 4,000 years old. And hidden under the sands, a network of ancient and unexplored tombs and temples. Until the bloody coup this summer, 10,000 tourists came here every day. Now, there's a different type of visitor.
Oh, wow. This is new.
It looks incredibly deep.
In the cities, Egypt's new military government is suppressing protests by the Muslim Brotherhood against the removal of President Morsi. With no one guarding the ancient sites, thieves are plundering their treasures.
That's insane. And it looks quite fresh. Then they probably had a car with a rope, and they used the rope to get down. I'm sure they're finding statues, jewelry, amulets. And they'll probably also sell it for a very small price to a big antiquities dealer.
The criminals sell to dealers in a global black market. They use high-tech sonar and heavy machinery.
This is happening right under the nose here of the government. It's just, we're less than a kilometer from the Sphinx and the Great Pyramids.
Look at this.
This is very fresh. This is possibly from last week.
And it's in a landscape that is pockmarked with similarly fresh holes that have been dug, it looks like, in the last few weeks.
Monica is preparing to sue the government to force it to protect ancient sites. But her lawyers won't act until she gives them hard evidence of looting from 10 specific places. She's racing to document the destruction. Monica drops me at Giza, a once bustling tourist town near the pyramids. She's put me in touch with Ahmed Abu Zuba and his assistant Hima Abdurrahman, tourist guides who offer camel rides. The violence means tourists are staying away. Before the crisis, they did a brisk business. 14 million tourists came to Egypt a year. Locals are now using up what's left of their savings.
We are just waiting for any tourist to come to have a camel ride with us, but there is also no tourist. That's why we just sitting, playing kind of game.
When was the last time you had a customer?
It's a couple of weeks ago. Couple of weeks. We did not remember even now.
In this town, everybody I talk to blames the Muslim Brotherhood protests for scaring away tourists.
Muslim brothers don't like, as at all, nothing. He made the tourists scared, come to Egypt.
These people want Egypt's military under General Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to end the chaos.
I like Sisi. Sisi is best one. I like him like a president. He's a good man. I want the tourists come to Egypt again.
And so does Hima. He dropped out of school 5 years ago to work for Ahmed.
I met him when he's 8 years old. He was just sitting in front of my house, but always when he saw me coming by the camel, back to my house by the camel, he's always running, follow the camels. Now, Hima, he's 13 years old. Every one of the pyramids, he knows them.
عشان الخواجات خايفة عشان الإخوان وكده الخواجات خايفة تنزل خايفين مفيش شغل
خلاص ماشي
وما بياكلوش زي الأول الأول كان جامد وبياكل وكده عشان كان في سياحة كتير دلوقتي مفيش
Hema hasn't made any money for the 14th day in a row. He left school because he has to support his father, who has a degenerative disease.
هو الأول كان ماسك جامع كان شيخ في جامع كان ماسكه بعدين رجله مش رجله حرية والأول كان بيروح الحرية ويلف كده دلوقتي لأ لسه المطبخ أجيب جمل وأسميه أوسكار أشتغل عليه وأجيب أي حاجة اللي أنا عاوزها وأجيب لبيتنا ولأخواتي وكده أفضل شغال في عرمة لحد ما أكبر.
Tourism used to make Egypt £6 billion a year. Ahmad says now people here can't even afford to feed their animals.
And all the ponies you can see, they're really thin. Look at this lot. I mean, it's a shocker.
But worse is to come.
That's the house, that place.
God almighty.
You see?
Oh, that is... Oh my God.
I'm not gonna move with you inside that view, the pictures, because I'm so sorry for that view. It's not normal.
Look at this. The reality of it didn't hit me, but out here there must be not one but dozens of horses that have died because their owners can't feed them, can't take care of them.
Today, if you saw 1,000 of horse, maybe next month you will see 2,000 of them. The third month you will see 3,000 of them. Many horses will die every day.
What is the financial effect on a family that has lost a horse like this?
One horse, he can feed like one family. If you are going to count the horse, how many horse that, it means all of that family, he have no money to live now.
Monica is chasing some important evidence for her case against the government. These are the pyramids at Dashur, built as far back as 2600 BC. In more peaceful times, Monica worked on excavations right here, but now every day brings a fresh discovery of looting.
You can see over there, the hill over there is completely dug up. The hill over there is completely dug up. All the surrounding area surrounding the Black Pyramid is completely dug up.
Wow. It's unbelievable. You can see all sorts of recent activity here. There are vehicle tracks, footprints. All of this has been happening since the political turmoil in Egypt kicked off. Monica, has this place ever been excavated?
No, this place was never properly excavated. It's completely virgin, so we have no clear record of what has been lost.
As we investigate the damage, Monica spots a group of men.
We'll have to leave, guys.
They apparently seem to be digging, so looting is ongoing, but Monica says that she's been shot at by people here in the past.
Quickly. They've definitely seen us. They're armed. They will not come to loot while they're not armed. I am very upset and very angry. Please put on your seatbelts. Hello?
Monica's phone is constantly ringing with fresh reports of looting.
Afanda?
But she's no choice but to get home. The army and police have imposed a midnight curfew in Cairo, leaving the sites out in the desert unguarded.
the military has Egypt in lockdown. But despite this, the Muslim Brotherhoods are still coming out regularly onto the streets to protest against the coup that overthrew President Morsi, and the violence has not yet ended. In addition to the demonstrations, there have been grenade and bombing attacks here in Cairo, not the atmosphere into which tourists might want to travel.
Monica says looting gained pace under the Muslim Brotherhood, who disliked anything non-Islamic and neglected ancient sites.
There were several fatwas of several sheikhs saying, oh, you have the right to go loot and dig and find whatever you find there. So this was the attitude.
And what did some of the extremists say with regard to the pyramids and the Sphinx?
Yeah, they wanted to blow it up. They said these are idols and they belong to a very bad civilization and we have to just blow it up.
At home, Monica goes over the evidence she's gathered in the field. She's nearly compiled enough material for her case.
We're trying to put enough media and political pressure on the government to take stronger measures at protecting the sites.
Tonight, Monica feels she's fighting a losing battle.
At this hour, looters are out on site with their shovels and bulldozers looking for antiquities. I want this to end very soon.
Next day, she gets a call about the destruction of monuments in Ansana, south of Cairo.
All these rural sites that we're going to see today are potential sites for tourism.
So it's economic suicide.
Exactly, yeah. They're shooting themselves in the foot.
"1,700 years ago, Coptic Christians cut this incredible network of churches into the rocks. They served as safe havens in times of persecution. Now they're under attack again.
This was not the door. This was an entrance made by looters. You can see here, that's a very recent dynamite hole. Literally a week old, maybe, or less.
It looks like they actually already tried to blow that up, didn't they?
They think that if they blow it up, they will find treasures, they will find gold. They think the Copts here hide their money. It's absolutely ridiculous. And this church might not be here next week. We could be the last people to take photographs of the place.
Some churches have already collapsed. Thieves have drilled deep into the rock.
The looters are digging a very long tunnel, thinking they'll find the treasure.
Oh, so this is looters who've been digging
Yes,
this?
it's
Wow.
totally modern.
You won't see this site on any of the guidebooks, but it's still of immense value to Egypt's history, and it could, at some point in the future, contribute to a tourism industry that would sustain its people. But instead of that, it's being vandalized by treasure hunters who are moving in here with dynamite.
Early Christian frescoes have been defaced. Apart from greed, religious prejudice is also at work.
This is Herod the king and the killing of the children of Bethlehem.
These are biblical scenes from...
Yes, the faces were hacked out by vandals.
At the time of our visit, Islamists are burning modern churches in the nearby town of Minya.
The whole mountain here is full of Greek, Ethiopian, Syriac, and Coptic inscriptions, which have never been documented.
Monica takes us to see early Christian graves.
يا خبر ده مضيعين الدنيا ده كان في منهم متحنط yes. It's probably a place for church martyrs. And they probably have sifted through all the bones in search for things that they can sell. It's quite shameful. I mean, these people were left here peacefully for around 2,000 years, and just what happens to them.
I'd seen evidence of looting on a large scale. But even in lawless Egypt, I can't understand why thieves can operate with bulldozers and not be arrested. I finally get my chance to ask.
We're following a car with two men in it who've been described to us as looters of antiquities. And they're driving us to a location of their choosing where I'm hoping they'll tell us why and how they engage in this practice of looting antiquities that is so damaging to Egypt.
The looter hides his face. Off camera is another man armed with a pistol.
اولا انا بعمل كده لان مفيش قدامي غير كده. مفيش شغل من اي نوع، يعني محتاج ان انا اشتغل عشان الاقي اللي يصرف على قوت بيتي وقوت عيالي الكلام ده. فمفيش قدامي غير كده.
Are you not scared of being arrested for what you do?
بعد اوقات تنظيم بيننا وبين الجهات المسؤولة، فبيضطر ان هو يطلب مني فلوس على انه يسيبني اطلع اشوف هلاقي حاجة الكلام ده. يعني كله بياكل ورا بعضه، كله بياخد من ورا بعضه.
Doesn't it make you feel bad that you're looting from sites that could sustain a future tourism industry?
طبعا شيء محزن ان انا اعمل حاجة زي كده. مش هعمل كده، ده هيضر اجيال قدام كتير، وده شيء محزن، بس محتاج ان انا اعيش، مفيش قدامي غير كده.
Autumn is usually the start of the high season. Emad and Hema hope that today busloads of visitors might be on their way. But there's been a car bomb in Cairo.
المفروض الشغل يجي، خواتي تيجي هنا والشغل يجي، ما فيش حد بيجي. منطقة قافلة خالص. شايف الدنيا عاملة ازاي؟ ما فيهاش حاجة خالص، ولا في شغل.
Emad is himself now struggling to feed his camels properly. And both are getting sick.
ايوه كان هيوجع علينا.
ايه؟
كان هيوجع علينا.
بس هو دي فيها حاجة، جمر رجليه ورمت. بص انت رجليه وشوفها.
لما فتحنا له لمت بحط له زيت امبارح بملح.
الجمل ده انا هديهم حقن النهارده، همسك ده ونديله 2 للجرب.
ده وده.
نمسك ده نديله 2 للجرب وندي دوت ل2 تاني.
Emad and Hema have brought their camels to a centre where they can get free treatment. This is a horse hospital, really, and it also treats camels.
One of Emad's camels is named Bob Marley. Bob has an infected foot.
انت بقول انت شايف في مرض فيه ايه؟ المرض في حته؟
المرض هنا. هننضفها دلوقتي ونشوف اللي فيها.
The vet Sharif injects the animal with antibiotics.
انا لسه ما اشوفش جمل في الجرح ده. I'm not happy.
It's an important day for Monica. She hopes she's gathered the evidence she needs to sue the government for failing to protect ancient sites.
I finished everything.
She shows her photos to her lawyer, Mohammed Fadil.
انت قلت لي اعمل ايه 10 احنا عندنا كتير. احط لك ايه بداله؟
طيب عظيم، بس دي كل دي معلومات اساسيه احنا عندنا اللي بيقول ده، يعني هل احنا مصورين الموقع ده بيتفجر بالديناميت؟
بص اهو هتلاقي مكان الديناميت.
رايي انه خلاص دي جريمه.
Mohammed Fadil has seen enough. He agrees they can go ahead and sue the Minister of Antiquities.
احنا بس فلما نبعت له الانذار ده عارف انه عشان ما حدش هيبعت له الانذار.
It's a big moment.
طيب اتفقنا. اوكي ماشي.
The people who are behind the looting of antiquities, how do they react to your efforts to close them down?
They're very upset. They've even threatened me through someone.
What was actually said?
This is dangerous for my life. This is how serious the threats I've received.
Near the Sphinx, Egypt's tourist minister, Hisham Zazu, is trying to reassure the world that Egypt is safe for tourists to return to. Yet when I speak to him, he accepts that looters have overrun the tourist sites.
These are criminals, these are terrorists, because they are attacking these monuments, and the monuments do not belong to Egypt, they belong to the world, they belong to the humanity.
What are you going to do about it?
We are going to ensure that the security levels in these areas will be lifted and heightened, and I believe this is a talk that's going between us, the Ministry of Antiquities, together with the Ministry of Interior.
Whatever the minister says, it hasn't happened yet. We return to Giza, where in the shadow of the pyramids, we see fresh evidence of looting.
We need more political stability and then more efforts as a state and as a government and as Egyptian people to stop the looting. People need to know that what they're doing is basically stealing from the future food plate of their children. They just do not realize that.
After another day of no work, Emad is taking his camels home. He and his two brothers live in this house with their families. They all rely on the tourism business. And there are many mouths to feed.
I have my two children. My brother, he has 3. My youngest brother, he has 3. Plus my mother and my father.
16 people.
Plus my sisters.
So 18 people living in this house.
And then always we are looking after them.
If the tourism business didn't come back, what would you do?
I have no another job to do. I will try to find any kind of job to look after my family.
Ahmad's children have school coming up, for which he has to pay fees with money that he does not have.
I need to lead my children's educations. I have to pay fees for my children's schools. I am one from 90 million persons. We are always waiting for our country to come back again.
Monica's mission to protect Egypt's culture has got even harder since we filmed, as there have been more violent clashes. And for Ahmad and Hima, it's hard to believe that tourists will return anytime soon. But rich or poor, their stories show the impact of Egypt's political crisis on everyday lives.
Next week, Shay Rhodes heads to Central Africa in the wake of a coup.
I honestly can't think of a worse situation.
Joining a midwife on a mission to reach hundreds of pregnant women in one of the most dangerous places in the world to give birth.
Oh, this is really hard to watch.